Welcome to the session of the D'A Film Festival. We are so privileged and honored to have three fantastic people with us today to discuss about film festivals and the relevance it has in the impact of filmmaking and how we plan our careers. So welcome everybody. My hope is going well with you. This is the safest place on earth, culture, and then Zoom. And we're going to go through film festivals. This intends to be very dynamic. If you have any question, please go to the chat next, and we will be answering. If not right in the moment, we will have a Q&A session right at the end. We intend to go for over 1 hour, and it's going to be very interesting. I've been talking to these people for some time right now, and I have 1,000 questions in my head. So be prepared to be surprised. So what we're going to go is from smallest country, biggest country. So smallest country, let's go with Christine Dollhofer. There you go. She's the festival director of Crossing Europe Film Festival in Linz. This is a very nice city in Austria. This is a festival to idiosyncratic, contemporary, and socio-political outdoor cinema from Europe. It was born, like the rest of the film festivals here, in 2004. And Christine has the responsibility to 160 films and documentaries every year. It's a small country, big festival, 700 people accredited. And as they say, film festivals still play an important role in bringing new positions and developments in film art and to a wider public for discussion, curating programs and films that too often, despite the international success of some of the movies, they can't find any place, mainly for economic reasons. So they're doing an extraordinary job just giving them an audience, which is great. We go to a little bigger country, which is Iceland, and we have Frédéric Voyer. He's in Paris, not in Reykjavík right now, but he's the head of programming of Reykjavík International Film Festival. This is a film festival that you can go and celebrate in the fall before it is too cold. And they have a new and progressive quality films supporting innovation and filmmaking, networking between professionals from various parts of the world and fostering social and cultural dialogue. If you're lucky, you can find Bjorn somewhere. If you're not, you can go to get the golden puffin, which is like, this little bird, very beautiful, and it's been awarded to first and second time directors. And again, they were born in 2004, so they've been around for a while right now, and they host something like 100 films during the week that the film festival takes place. And right now we move to the third country, which is a lovely country called Portugal, very far from Spain, but still you can get there somehow. We have Fernando Vasquez with us, who is the head of programming of FEST, the New Directors New Film Festival. This is a film festival that takes place from the 4th to the 11th of October, more or less, in the beautiful city of Espinho in Portugal. And, if you know, FEST has become very quickly one of the leading showcases of groundbreaking films by emerging filmmakers, as well as a platform for international films professionals, up and coming and established alike, to come together and present their work despite their skills and create synergies, which is absolutely great and necessary. So thank you all for being here with us today. It's going to be exciting. It is so great to have film festivals you can go and enjoy movies and share experience. But to make a film festival, it is complicated. And the first thing that you need to have is a vision, like a trademark, something that defines the idea of the film festival that you want to do. So, for example, Christine, what is the idea of your film festival? Why does it make it unique if we want to go to the Crossing Europe Film Festival?
I think the first thing you have to count in is what is the situation in your country, which festivals are already on the ground, and what is missing. And when I was asked if I would like to start the festival in Linz, in Upper Austria, I first discovered or checked what's going on there. Is there an art scene? Is there a filmmaking scene already active? And I think it's very important to know your audience, to know the people in the city, and of course, what is missing and what is missing locally, what is missing nationally, and how can we connect with the European film scene. So the idea was, because before I was running the Festival of Austrian Films in Graz, another film festival, and I thought between the Biennale, the big one in Vienna, there is something missing in between. Means young auteurs from all over Europe to gather in Linz and to select outstanding, eccentric, new voices of European cinema. And to implement also a program section for local artists, which means artists from the region, to connect with the international filmmakers, which is, I think, very important to find angles to attract and to connect audience. Maybe also amateur filmmakers, doesn't matter if they are already professional filmmakers or not, but to connect film buffs with international guests. And the nice thing with young directors with first, second film is that they're really keen to travel, they are really keen to attend and to approach to the audience. And so this was the key idea. What is missing is in Austria, how can we underline European strengths of auteur cinema and how to connect with the audience.
Okay, so it was about what it was missing and the connection between the local and the rest of the world, which is so important and necessary. Frédéric, in your case, Reykjavík, what makes it so relevant? What is the idea behind the festival? You should.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm going to just talk about Reykjavík because I'm also running Les Arcs and Tribeca, which is very good for the experience. But for Reykjavík, I really think this is a very young, I mean, the audience is extremely young, between 25 and 34 or 35. And it's really exciting because in many film festivals, we are trying to bring back a young audience, but in Reykjavík, we have the young audience. And also, it's a very small team, very well done, but I really think when the society is changing, with the COVID and what's happened in the world, I think personally, a festival should reflect what's happened in the world and to be able to evaluate and to change a section. For me, I really love music, and I think music and cinema is something which can work very well. Documentary about music, documentary about arts, bringing politics because people like it. I mean, people really like to have Q&A with a meaning, with something important, but also people love to have a Q&A about beautiful cinematic films. But I think it's quite important to stay connected to, and also to new images. I'm not really on VR, but I really, in Tribeca, they are doing this experience. They have a section called Now, dedicated to very young filmmakers, I would say under 20 years old, who are making a film just for internet. They don't know what is a set. They are doing the film for the net. And in the beginning, I was not believing it could work, but it's not only work. There is a market. There is a people who are interested in gaming. I know nothing about gaming, but say, yeah, this could be something maybe interesting to have a section to bring also people who are not doing something with a camera, but doing something maybe at home. So I think we all love to, not me, but I think we all aim to create a new section, to have something a little bit different every year.
That is very interesting, because I don't know if that happened in your countries, but during the confinement here, every day there was a lot of posts in Instagram and Facebook and YouTube of people in their houses
Exactly.
making amazing work. It was amazing.
Yeah, and the people, they don't even think they are filmmakers, but for me they are. And for the audience, they are really, it's accessible. The audience will say, okay, he can do it, I can do it. And we festival were here to do the transmission sometime. So
yeah, it was a way of making a narrative of what was going on. You know, I remember when I first got out and I had to go to the film festival after the confinement. It was so incredible to know the experience of people from all over the world, how they live the situation, how they still create narratives. So yes, very, very interesting. Fernando.
Yes. Well, our festival, as you mentioned, started in 2004. And perhaps the easiest way to explain the identity is to discuss it, how it started, in the sense that it was started by people that had finished film school and had two main problems. The first one, they didn't really knew how the festival circuit worked, much less the distribution system. And in Portugal at the time, there was no real festival focused on new talent. There was even around the world, there wasn't that many. A lot of festivals had side sections where they exploited that niche, let's say, but it wasn't as widespread as it is now. And also, they finished film school and they knew very well how to lighten a scene, how to edit a film, etc., but they knew nothing about the film industry. So the idea was to create an event that would support new talent or new filmmakers or new people that wanted to work in the film industry in those two grounds. So inevitably, we ended up developing a festival that it's ultimately three festivals or three events happening at the same time. You have the film festival in the conventional sense of the festival, with a competition for first and second features and also for short films. And then you have training activities with master classes and workshops with key people in the film industry, from big directors to people who work on world sales agencies or on promoting films, etc., trying to cover as many different aspects of the industry as possible. And the third event is a sort of a pitching forum where people go to the event with a project, trying to get financing or some kind of support to make these projects happen. So that's ultimately the trilogy that defines the event. Obviously, 17 years later, it has developed to more than that, and the festival takes place in a very small town. It's a suburb of Porto, just 15 kilometers south of Porto, called Espinho. And it's a very nice seaside town, an old fishing village that became a tourist resort, but it's still only 15,000 people, which obviously limits you in terms of growth. So the idea was always to try and get people to come from outside to the festival. And that's ultimately how the festival ended up gaining its own identity within the Portuguese context. And what you end up with is a festival that is 80% foreigners. 80% of our audience comes from outside of Portugal, not even outside of Spain. So, and I would say, you know, still talking about this identity, the thing that we value the most is actually the community that is created throughout 1 week, that for almost 24 hours a day, everybody's either watching a film or talking about a film, talking to a filmmaker, talking about possible projects. This from the industry perspective, and then also kind of creating a bridge with the normal audience, whatever that means, who has the opportunity to actually get to see how this works. There's a lot of myths around the film industry, and there's a huge distance between audience and the author, and that's the main thing we want to try and erase as much as we can, at least.
I think we'll cover the myths and legends about film festivals. But one of the things that I think it's really interesting when you mentioned this, I I teach also at university, and one of the things that I see from new filmmakers is, number one, they need to be encouraged to do and express themselves. And sometimes we tend to limit them very much. Like, you know, this has to be like this has to be like that, right? And then, you know, when they finish, they just want to do something. Okay, what do we do next? When do we go? Do we go to a film festival? How we do submit? So how do you research from filmographies all over? Where do you go? Do they contact through the website? Do you have people that look for film somewhere? Is somebody telling you, look at this? Christine, shall we start with you?
So actually, it's a mixture of everything. I mean, it's all about networking first of all. I mean, there are a lot of rumors on festivals, which film is hot and you should see, and which is a secret and a discovery. This is one part, networking and talking to film critics, curators, and of course, all these people who represent their countries with their films. All the film commissions, filmmakers, all of this. Then second part is, of course, we got a lot of submissions. You can apply and submit the film. Then it's word to word, mouth to mouth rumor. I mean, people said, why don't you apply at Crossing Europe or so on? And over the years, I mean, I think all of us experienced it. There is a network also of filmmakers who came maybe in the first, second year when they were young, and they're still coming with their films because they like to attend, they like the festival atmosphere and the audience. So, and of course, reading all the critics, all the lineups of festivals around the world, then Festival Scope, Sinando, all these professional platforms where you can watch films. It's really a mixture of everything. So, and that's we are truffle hunters, let's say. And what's nice, it's that the colleagues in the festival field are very collaborative. We work together, we exchange ideas, we recommend films from our territories where we know maybe the filmmakers better than others. So it's but I think what's also important, I attend, and I think Frédéric is doing the same, and Fernando maybe as well. We attend a lot of work in progress sessions or pitchings or co-production markets where you already meet producers, directors of films which are not ready yet, but maybe in 1 or 2 years. And this is also very important to, I think I can really recommend to young filmmakers to be more active on all these markets and attend at all these markets. It's a very important marketplace to meet people. Even if you don't find partners for your project, it's very helpful for future projects maybe, and to see how it works outside of your own box. Mainly people are working in their bubble and don't experience the competition out there. And so that's very important. But just wanted to add for the festival part that I think it's really important that we festivals, we bring films which are not seen normally in cinema, because it's easy to promote films which are anyway having a regular release in your country. It's very important to bring other voices and also to have this diversity of territories, and of course diversity in terms of the subjects and female, male directors and so on. So on all levels have a diverse program. So that's it.
Right. So we can summarize: get out of your bubble, and go for the truffle hunters.
Yes.
Perfect. Frédéric.
I agree with Christine. It's really a mix of many things. Personally, I really like to go to the producers I really like, because I know they're going to produce something. This is my way to do it. I'm looking, of course, Cine Europa and going to the works in progress. And I really want to say something for the viewers. many students, they think we are not accessible. We are looking for your film. Stop if you see us and tell us you have a film. It's exactly how it works. And it's the reason why a festival, it's extremely helpful. And much more new directors, Linz or Reykjavík, because you're going to spend 3-4 days with someone in Cannes or Berlin or Toronto. It's impossible. You see so many people you don't remember. When you go to a festival with a good size, first the food is good, the mood is good, and there is something, it's a kind of a love story. It's a kind of affair. And I saw so many filmmakers and short filmmakers, they find their cinematographer, their film editor, they find an actor, maybe they were drunk, but it was fine. And this is the problem with Zoom, it's a little bit different. But festivals are here also to connect people, to make films. And of course, when in Reykjavik, of course, it's small, but we have the freedom. We don't need to have to have a premiere. It has to be Icelandic premiere. So in a way, this is cool. And with all the films which were made last year and not seen, the choice is double. We can choose also a film which it play online. We're gonna play it on a big screen. So it's like to relativize a little bit the idea of a premiere, world premiere, even if we need to have some gala things. But I always say we should make a film of the film we love. That's it. And bring to bring filmmakers or an actors, and it's going to be a carte blanche of the film he liked. It can be a film from the 30s. Cinema, it's not only cinema from 2020, it can be a film from 2-3 years ago, and people are rediscovering the film. They say, wow, thank you for sharing this with us.
Interesting. Yeah. Fernando, where is the strangest place where you found a movie?
Strangest place. That's a difficult one. Well, most of the methods have already been described, to be honest. I would add here, going to other festivals and understanding with time which festivals are specialized in which cinematography zone and which styles is a very important process, especially for places that, for instance, us in Portugal have a much harder time in discovering. Our film scene is very small. There's very few independent cinemas. Almost the whole exhibition circuit is dominated by one company who only pretty much shows American blockbusters. So it's really difficult to have access to films from Europe, from most places in Europe, for instance, from the Baltic region or from the Balkans, etc. So this is very difficult to actually get this information. You really need to get out and discover. And with time, you learn either to go to the festivals or to follow their programs and learn that each year which ones is specialized in what. And that's a place that certainly we go and get a lot of our information from. As Christine was saying, fortunately, the film industry, at least the festival circuit, it's full of people that want to collaborate with each other. So you're in constant conversations with your programming colleagues from other festivals, figuring out. Usually, I'm also a film critic, so I also get that from the press sites, from my critics friend. Normally, when a critic loves a film, he's going to talk to everyone about it. He's going to try and get it to go as far as possible. So that also kind of gives me the opportunity to learn that way. Just skimming through our submissions, we get roughly every year close to 4,000 films. So just studying that gigantic list, or never-ending list of films, it's a way of figuring out what each country is doing, what are the themes that are being covered in that place, and understanding how the scene works. And yeah, the usual stuff. We also use a lot of Festival Scope is a great tool to figure out what's happening, both in the short format as well as in features. Fernando as well. I don't really have any strange example. Trying to figure out.
Really?
That's a difficult one. Not particularly strange. Obviously, word of mouth is usually a reliable source of information. But yeah, not really strange. Sorry.
There is a legend about how you guys make the lineup of one year. One day you just wake up and decide this year we're going to talk about I don't know, the immigration, and then everything that you choose is films that has something to do with that, or from all the list of the movies that you find, you think, I'm going to find the link here, like this, the magical link. How does it work?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question because 3 years ago, we were fascinated by the first film made in a Syrian camp. And of course, but after watching 40, 42, 50 films, it was too much for the audience, too much for me. So we lose a little bit the interest when the films are repetitive. And in terms of theme, especially in the European cinema, we are all looking for, I love drama, and melodrama is my favorite style of film. But when you see only mother-child drama, it's impossible to make a lineup only with film the same tone. So we need to find film a little bit different. It's a question of taste, but I think we all agree to make it a little bit always exciting, but first for the audience to buy a ticket and to fill the room, because it's really sad when your room is not, so, but it's not easy because we are watching also a lot of film we didn't like. People think we're always watching film we love. Yes, of course we love cinema, but we have to watch film personally we don't like, or to TV, or not for us. Let's say it doesn't fit for us.
Yeah. Christine, is that for you?
Yeah, I think the mixture is very important. So we are kind of a connoisseur shop with pâté from France and some schnapps from Bulgaria, and so it's really important to find this. We have to love the movies we present. I mean, this is the most important thing. And of course, it's not to fulfill only our interests. We do it for an audience. But if if I'm not convinced what I'm selecting, I can't transfer my enthusiasm about the film to the audience. So it's really important that we believe what we are doing, and we want to find from our point of view, the best films or the most interesting films, cinematic, social, political, surprising. I really like movies who surprise me without the formula, you know. I mean, as we see so many films nowadays, I mean, 1,000 films a year or whatever. So really formulas are boring after so many years. So it's really lovely to discover films when you start a film and you don't know what's going on. How will this end? You have no clue. I think this is, for me, is the best experience ever. But it's really important to have a mixture for the audience. So not 15 refugee documentaries, and I like refugee documentaries, but there are so many angles how you can tell a story about refugees. So it's now really more about people who are already here and how to implement, how to deal with this new surrounding new societies and so on. So in general, Frédéric already pointed it out. It's really I always say hand-picked selection. So it's really, and that's very good, because if each festival has the same selection, it's also boring. So the wonderful thing is, if I go to another festival, I discover a total other lineup or some overlapping, but that's what I really like, to discover something new which was not in my spectrum. So it's very important to be open, always open and curious, and yeah, that's the best thing about our work.
Right. You know, it's really interesting also, because this is the way that the brain works. I mean, the brain always looks for the answer. So we program to, you know, in terms of survival, as you know, as animals, we tend to think, okay, what's next? So when we are making movies, it's the same thing. When you make a movie and your brain knows exactly what's going to happen next, it's boring, because your brain wants more and more and more. So that's what we tend to like, to be surprised. Yeah, Fernando.
Yeah, I mean, obviously usually we do have a theme that attempts at gluing the whole program together, and that certainly affects significantly certain side sections that are connected to that theme. But generally, and that can go very wrong, and I'll give you a silly example. Last year, before the pandemic, our theme was the apocalypse. And as the pandemic began, we had to completely change the festival in 3 months because there was a lot of films focused on that, and it didn't make any sense to make that at that time. But generally, yeah, it's the same principle as Christine and Frédéric. My perspective is that I have to imagine that there will be someone in the audience who's going to watch every single film. So if I need to make sure that that experience is as varied as possible, that so we can keep going to the next screening. Obviously, that's very difficult, especially since we're talking about a universe of roughly 150 to 200 films. It's impossible to make it that varied, but you can, you always try and find a different, even if it's the same theme, you try and look for a different tone of film, a different format, different country for sure, a different type of filmmaker, a woman, a man, etc. You can always find ways of getting that variety, and that variety is absolutely essential. It's the main thing that we focus on. For instance, our feature film competition, we always try and maintain, if you're going to have genre cinema, you're going to have each one of that genre, which makes it really difficult. It means that a lot of the times you do not select the films that you really want, but you select the films that you really need to have in order to have that balance. It also means that you always have to put ahead of whatever interest you have, the interest of the audience, the necessities of the audience. And in our case, we have quite a varied audience, so you have to respond to a lot of different necessities. We have from film students from different parts of the world to a local fisherman. So it's a pretty wide group of people and group of interests. But yeah, the idea is always variety is the single most important thing, I would say.
It's amazing when you're describing this. I'm imagining that you are rock bands, rock stars, and you have to put on a concert. You have to get the new single out, which is the premiere. So it's something exciting for people. But then you describe some sort of a route. I'm going to take you through this journey. So right now I know that we're going to have some ballads because I want you to cry or dance. Now we're going to have some rock and roll. Now we're going to have some dance. Now I'm going to disappear. Now I'll come back. So you're a little bit making a concert, but with movies, which is amazing. That selection.
Yeah, festival has always a narration. I mean, and a choreography. I mean, that's true. And that's what I really like, to have such a mixed audience, which is attracted to different parts of the program. And of course, a festival is not only watching films, it's talking about films, it's partying, it's mingling, it's all together. It's this intense few days you spend with people who are also film buffs or just wanted to check out what's going on. It's also okay. And I think this 1 week choreography is, of course, you start with an opening, you close with an award ceremony and with the award-winning film presentation. In between, you have some topics, highlights. So it's really like a script we write also for this week.
And how is your work as a cicerone? That responsibility of having to choose between one movie or another, one author or another. How many friends and enemies have you made over the years?
But it's funny you ask. Sorry, go ahead, Christine.
No, I just wanted to say, I mean, it depends. We are not Cannes, so I think it's not that serious. There are other options. You can premiere with your film, or we also need only an Austrian premiere. But of course, I mean, you have to imagine each filmmaker, each producer puts all his energy, all his love in one film, and each rejection is really hurting. And but I really try to explain and not bring it down to a personal level, on a very professional level. And I never made the experience that somebody was really, really mean because we rejected the film.
But Fernando, you have found
Yes.
somebody.
I was going to say, because we work with first and second features and with younger filmmakers in the short sector, we do get this more confrontational relationship more often. I think because people aren't really yet used to this rejection that Christine was talking about, and haven't fully understood the different kind of alternatives and opportunities that are out there. Yes, this rejection is very complicated, and I understand that filmmakers put not just all of their resources, but all of their energy, all their lives is focused on this. They have to understand that all of our resources and all of our lives are put on our festivals as well. So it's a very equal relationship. I wouldn't say that you don't get enemies if you explain to them as things are. If you make the effort to try and explain how the process works, if you're as transparent as possible, that's not a problem at all, because ultimately when you're making the decision of selecting a film or not, you are going through a very long list of factors that may define if a film is selected or not. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the merit of the film. A film is selected because it's a good film in theory. If we are selecting, there's something in it that we really, really value, but it has to play well with the other films. I have to have the right set of conditions to be able to show it. 1,000 different reasons. So it's very important not to take this personally. So I wouldn't say that we have that kind of problem. We have found the right balance to do it. But it's very difficult. As I mentioned before, the thing that bothers me the most is having a film I like a lot, that I really want the whole world to watch it, and then I can't select it in my own festival, which really annoys me. And it's not for money reasons. It's for what most people would consider less important reasons. But simply, we, as I mentioned, we receive close to 4,000 films and we select around 150. So you're going to have to make choices, and these are going to be hard choices. At the end of the day, what's important to understand for new filmmakers is that even if your film is not selected, doesn't mean you shouldn't go to that festival. There are so many other opportunities that you can get by going to a festival. As both my colleagues here have mentioned, it's not just about showing your film, it's about starting to work for your next film. It's about understanding how specific industries work, finding new partners, finding a new DOP at a bar or at a restaurant or in a corridor of one of the venues. Film festivals are the place where the whole industry congregates. It's really the only place where the film industry congregates. So it's absolutely vital that they understand that festivals are not just a place to show their films, they're a place to progress their careers. So.
Yeah, I think rejection is, most of the filmmakers, they really understand, because most of the time it's not a question of taste. It's just because your film is in black and white, and we have already 3 films in black and white, and we want to limit it a little bit for 10 films in competition. So, and also we are in contact with a commission, like say in Austria, of course, there is a famous one, but everywhere. We are in contact with the producers, the sales agent, and rarely with the filmmakers. But if we start a conversation with the filmmaker, it's totally normal to continue. And it's fine. Sometimes there is filmmakers coming to me with their short, can you watch it? And I say, I can watch it, we can talk about this, but I can tell you, I will be very honest. They say, wow, it's exactly what I want. I say, yes, but I will be very honest. So it's not, I'm not selecting for a festival, trying, because of course we have our words, we know how to try to not be rude. Sometimes we really don't like a film, but we have to be more than polite, but also, yeah. But when someone is showing you a film, they really appreciate you, the honesty, even if you don't like it. It's a part of the game. The filmmakers, I think it's our opinion is important. It's important. And by the way, it's not my taste; it's the taste of a team of 6 or 10, and in Tribeca 40. So it's like we are also sharing our life of programmers. I'm able to change my mind. I'm able to program a film which I don't love, but I think we have to program the film for a reason of playing this film, like an opening film. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes being in main competition of being the opening film is not the best thing for your film. I've seen careers.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not made for that, don't let your ego think that you're there for the opening film, because it can be a total disaster for your career and for the film's career.
Exactly.
But sometimes these kind of fashion things happen. Like now this is a trend. Now this is fashionable, and there's kind of a phenomena that repeats periodically with waves of narrative, waves of directing actors, subjects, for example, right? How does this happen?
Yeah.
I think
Christine, please.
no, I think this is a part of our industry. I mean, we had the Yugoslavian wave, black wave, the Romanian wave. Now hybrid is pretty often part of the cinematic narration. There are always a kind. I mean, I think also we, the curators, create this kind of waves because people who select films, we are close. This is kind of a hype which is starting. But I mean, it's not that it's not that these films are not good, or that's not fair that the wave is. But also, I have the impression that, like with the Romanian waves, there is one key director who starts something, and then all curators are curious what's going on in this country, and then this motivates others to follow, and I think that's very interesting. And filmmaking is collaboration, and film schools. I mean, you are influenced by film schools and what's going on there. So, but maybe Frédéric, you can add something more serious.
No, I'm not serious. Just there's also one factor which is very important for me, but probably for you, and then people who are. I think it's when we are selecting a film and in competition, the filmmakers has to come, because if we play the film, let's say dry. I mean, if you are going to a festival, is to have a Q&A and to meet the guy or the girl, or to meet them after, to have a drink, and just to dream a little bit, to meet someone who made a film you love, and to say, I mean, without the attendee of filmmakers, or I mean, it's a little bit annoying for me to invite a film, or minimum the cast, but someone. But if you have nobody for a filming competition, it's difficult. And it's happened. So sometimes at the last minute,
Yes, going back to this, how do these phenomenons develop? I think Christine pretty much said everything. I also feel that a lot of the times it's either us programmers or film critics who start these waves after wave after wave after wave. And a lot of the times it's not really a wave. It's just one or two examples that manage to have some similarities, and that's about it. I really like it when it does happen in an organic fashion. The example that Christine gave of Romanian cinema, yes, it starts with one, but then obviously all the limelight or the lens is focused on that direction. The Greek weird wave, for instance, and it's another great example. And it's great because it usually has a snowball effect, and it affects the rest of the region, and it really forces us as programmers or cinephiles to go and look for what's happening there. So I actually like those phenomenons a lot.
yeah.
Or even filmmakers invent like dogma. It's like was also. So it either filmmakers themselves invent a new style and it became global, or we festival people or critics focus on something special going on in a territory or in a film style way or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I really like the notion of wave, and we knew that from the Romanian and of course the Iranian wave and Taiwan Wave. But I really think it's a film. It has to be fun enough. You can say, let's say, oh, I just saw a film from Argentina with no swimming pools, because Progressa Martel, oh, it's a French film, they are not eating. Oh, this is a Turkish film, there is no father-son story. Ah, yes, this is good. We can show something from Portugal. This is not okay. This is a film, it doesn't look like a Manuel de Oliveira or, just to, I really appreciate when filmmakers are doing something we are not looking from their country, and which there are absolutely no wave. So this is exciting. Otherwise, it seems they are repeating themselves.
But the problem is when an Argentinian filmmaker appears with a film without a swimming pool, we're gonna, in a year or two, we start saying that's the new Argentinian way.
Yes, exactly.
Non-swimming pool films.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. But still, it's difficult to find an equilibrium, because something that excites you, or you put a label on it, let's go this way, but then try to find equilibrium between continents and countries, and have representation from South America, from Africa, from Asia.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like when things are arriving in the beginning, the tablets, iPad, okay, it was exciting for 6 months, and now it's really not interesting. Even a conversation about an iPad, it's boring. When you see so many films, it started 10, 12 years ago, and it was in Sundance, and then people were texting, and then you see the text on the screen. So I'm asking the filmmakers, please try to not do it again, because now when we see a film where two girls are texting, say, no, please, not again. This is also the repetition after years. Filmmakers have to try to find another idea to tell the stories, because otherwise it's going to be very academical, or conventional.
I think there's also a responsibility from the film institutions. Sometimes they tend to give funds to movies that repeat the same thing. I've experienced something like that before.
Exactly. Yeah.
There is certainly some conservatism in that sector. I would also add that this may sound a bit silly, but my perception is that a lot of young filmmakers don't watch that many films, and they're watching a lot of classical films. So they end up being influenced by always the same sources, and that makes it really difficult for this phenomenon of contemporary filmmakers feeding off each other. I get that feeling a lot.
I agree.
And how do you develop new audiences?
Actually, so what we are starting now, what we are doing now since several years, we have young programmers. So these are youngsters between 16 and 18. They watch a lot of films. They have their own program section. It's called Young Programmer Section, with feature-length European films. So really, this year they selected Slalom and Gagarin and titles like this. So I really let them watch 25 films, and they select 6 films out of it. They have to write the texts, they have to do the Q&As, they have to prepare some material. This is one part. We have, of course, a youth jury as well, and we do workshops during the festival, so that they're making short films, video workshops. Then we bring professionals. They teach them some skills, but also they can talk with them about their profession. So like a platform to get informed about jobs in the film business. So we really try to attract a young audience to be active during the festival and before the festival, but also to bring a lot of films dealing with with young people in the film. So our audience is also pretty young, like in Reykjavík. So it's really between 16 to 30. It's the main audience, and I think that's pretty important, because they really change their socialization. To attend screenings in cinema is gone. not like us, we grew up, so every second day we have a date in a cinema, but this is not happening anymore.
Frédéric.
Yeah, no, it's a reason why also festival, I mean, distribution, I don't know where there is distribution anymore. I'm living in New York half time, and there is, of course, five venue. In Paris, this is the best. It's still working, and we have a network of distributors all over France. So, but you see what's happened in England, in Germany. It's difficult. I mean, the distributors now are the festival. And I remember a long time ago when I wanted for a festival to meet a sales agent, we got the meeting only at the end of the second week, Tuesday or Wednesday. Now it's the first day, the second day, with the coffee, you have the breakfast, they invite you because they want to connect with you because they make a lot of money. This is a professional thing, but we have to rent we have to pay. Sometimes it's quite expensive. So there is a kind of business behind. It's not very interesting for the filmmakers, but I think it's the distribution of the festival. And I think it's like you are going to see La Calas or you are going to see 16th century Shakespeare. You have to see something live, you have to be there. I'm not against the online. It was great for a year, but you have to be there. If you are not there, you have to come next year. This is, and it's fun. It has to be like this. And so when the festival, and we should talk, I mean, I'm not sure we should talk about what we call a festival film, but this festival film, you see film, they are playing here. Sometimes 85, 90, 100 festival are picking the same film. So if you see at the end, it's a lot of money, much more than any sales in Russia combined to Spain and France for a small film, art house film. So I think it's we are trying to personally to not have only festival film. It's a reason why I like also more traditional documentaries, just to change a little bit and not to have something which is a repetition of what's happened in Rotterdam. And I love Rotterdam. It's nothing not against this great festival, but repeating exactly the same time of lineup is not extremely interesting for me.
Yeah,
I agree. We have the same principle as well. Going back to audience development, we also work a lot with children, and obviously that's something that we believe is really, really important to work on, and we work that in different formats. We also have a group of youth jury, which is actually children's jury, where they learn through workshop formats, learn how to evaluate a film and interpret a film in a different way, and then they decide on winners. So that's a way of getting them more engaged and to think film differently. And that's been one of the most successful parts of our festival. Actually, our children's section has exploded in the last 5 years. Obviously, COVID-19 now has basically stopped that for a bit, hopefully, and we'll go back to it very soon. We also work a lot with high schools. We go into screenings in high schools, which is not as easy as it sounds, because it's very complicated to actually organize. Even now during COVID, we are doing this, and we stimulate them not just to watch films, but also do films. We're doing, just after this, I'm actually going to go into a session with 12-year-old kids who are going to be doing films on Zoom. So we're always trying to open their perspectives, also to start training the film muscle, to start consuming the kind of films we want them to consume. And speaking of film muscle, because our festival, again, because we are focused on first and second features and short films, very rarely we have space in our program to put the big names, the Polanskis, and ultimately the names that really appeal to a lot of people. So we actually created a cine club, a kino club, where we do screenings all throughout the year to literally train the muscle. So by the time that they get to the festival, they are kind of more eager to films that go a step further than the usual Palme d'Or films or things like that. And I'm not obviously diminishing the films that are in competition in Cannes in any way, but obviously the films that we end up screening are slightly different from that. They're more adventurous, more courageous, and they exploit different avenues than those big productions. So yeah, audience development is absolutely key right now, more than ever. Cinema is kind of losing a big battle right now, and the festivals are at the front of this. Let's hope that some institutions out there understand the importance of this fight and support us, because right now there's within the industry there's some changes going on that don't really necessarily help us in this fight.
Oh, I'm on mute. I was saying that this is true for all of you who really don't know how they get financed. Sometimes film festivals get financed from the people that attend the movies. In a year as catastrophic as this was, the finance goes down, and film institutions tend to go down, and it's very important for them to understand that this is about building a community. There's nothing more rewarding for a community than having a film festival. And we have three extraordinary examples right here. Guess what? It's been an hour, and I could be talking with you for more time, but we have 5 minutes left, and at the beginning of this conversation, I told our guests that we were going to be making a game, and the game is very simple. Some of you will probably think that you have a movie and you want to take it to the film circuit, that you want to do something with it. Some of you will go to film institutions to look for money, and they will ask, what is your strategy? Okay, I guarantee you that 99% of you, and probably us, go for the same thing. We'll start with Berlin, we'll start with Cannes, we'll start with Venice. So now I'm asking our guests here today, let's think outside the box. Let's try to think about an alternative way of promoting a first, second feature film of an author. So they can give us, I will start here and do this. And I think that will be very nutritious for the conversation. So Christine, shall we start with you?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, when you have a new film ready, actually, I would recommend anyway to present a new film even before it's finished in the editing process. Would be good to spread it already and present it to people out there. And I'm pretty sure, of course, all people want to apply being Cannes, or we are talking now about the feature, let's say first film, feature length, fiction film. It could be in Cannes or a certain regard or whatever, but of course the competition is really tough. So I really would recommend, of course, to ask other A film festivals like Toronto, San Sebastian, Locarno, Venice, Carlo Vivari. There are many A film festivals out there, and all these festivals, I think, are also a very good starting point because they have a lot of industry there, a lot of film critics, curators, and so on. So it doesn't have to be always Cannes or Berlin or Venice. There are other options as well. Of course, if you get rejected by all these A film festivals, I'm really convinced if the film is great, there will be another way to promote it through festivals who really are keen to invite the film. So I really would recommend go there when a festival director, curator is begging you to be part, to invite your film, to premiere your film. I think it's necessary to have somebody on board who is really passionate, because this person will promote the film to other curators, to other to other festival directors, and so on, to critics, maybe even to distributors or world sales. So it must not always be the A1. It could be also the B or Plan C could be also very successful for the further career of a film. And to bring an example, maybe to bring an example, I mean, there are always, especially more hybrid films, which are on the first view not these big titles, but they, for example, a film from Austria is called Double Happiness by Ella Reidel. It was about the copying of a village in Austria, which is very famous, Hallstatt, and it was copied in China. And this film traveled at so many festivals. It premiered at Crossing Europe, and then really internationally, architecture film festivals, all the Asian festivals, and it was really very popular documentary festival. So I think there are so many ways to start a career, and it can be successful even without being at a film festival. So
Okay, Frédéric.
Yeah, I think if you go to Cannes, that's great. First, it's going to be expensive. Second, it can be a success, but it can be a disaster. You need just one person saying to another, did you see this? Yes, it's crap, it's shit. And then they are talking to another one to a cocktail and you are destroyed. And then it's not, if you go to a smaller festival, they're going to take care of you. You need to have a buzz, it seems so important to have review. So it's another conversation. One day we should talk about critics, how is not doing well, but how important, and I have a lot of respect of what they are doing. So this is very important for a B or C, a D festival, and that's it. I mean, there is also so many examples. Of course, there's a stress when you are trying a selection to a festival. Sometimes a festival is not selected, and I have a good example, not selected in Sundance, not Rotterdam, not Cannes, not Berlin, not Toronto, not Carnaval, and going back to Sundance, and a huge success, exactly the same film. They called New Cut.
Yeah.
But so people have to, premiering is extremely important. You don't have to, of course, if they offer you the competition of Cannes, you're going to say yes, but you can choose to go to Glasgow, you can choose to go to Sevilla, you can choose to go to other festival, which is great. And then, especially if you are totally unknown, we call that a gem. If the filmmaker is unknown, you did a short, you presented the short to this film festival, you decide to present your film here, that could be extraordinary. So it's a good game and a good idea.
Okay, Fernando.
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously this depends on what kind of film it is and what is the objective of the filmmakers and the producers. But I would certainly advise to look not for a film festivals, but I would advise for them to look for festivals, for instance, in the European context, festivals that are supported by Creative Europe, which obviously have already been through lots of evaluation points and have passed. So they obviously have things in it that make it an important festival. Festivals that have a lot of media presence as well. Again, it's very good to have a film critic on their side. He's going to do a lot for your film. Festivals that have film forums in it that gather lots of professionals. They will most likely also have programmers from other festivals. So that's kind of half of your distribution work done just by having the film present there. And festivals that are really popular with audience, which is very difficult to figure out which ones they are until you actually go there. But there are lots of events, great events all throughout Europe. New Horizons in Poland is a good example.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very easy festival for you to be in touch with everyone and to everyone is in the same place. So you just go from screening to screening. Everybody, you end up creating a great atmosphere and everything in a very relaxed, non-VIP format. And there's many of those examples. Sometimes it may even make sense for a film to start being distributed in Latin America instead of in Europe. And then you're working in a completely different environment, or Asia or whatever. So there is certainly a world outside of A-list film festivals. And as Frédéric was saying, having a film in Cannes is not necessarily good for a film. It will get you a lot of exposure, but it can very easily and most likely it's even more likely for you to get bad exposure than good exposure. So so it can be a catch-22 situation.
Right. Oh, well, thank you very much. I wrote down some of the words that you've been mentioning more than 4 or 5 times. Community was one of the things. It was very surprising to me. I thought we were going to, I didn't know exactly where the conversation was going to go to, but community, that was very, very important in the 3 dialogues. Audience, that was the second one, how to stimulate them, how to reach them. Very interesting. Dialogue, how to create a dialogue between different parts of the world within your community, within filmmakers. That was the third. The fourth was surprise. I'd like to be surprised. I like to find new things. So that's very important. And the last thing was curiosity, was also very linked to surprise, but curiosity. It's very interesting because, having people like this today in this chat, their personality is also, like we were saying, this is the song they're writing, this is the script they're writing, and they invite you to this journey through the days that the festival takes place. And so you explore different angles of a same dialogue that they try to have with you. Community, interaction, audience, stimulation, surprise. Those are your words. I cannot be more grateful to you. We have a couple of questions for you guys. The first one is from Lara, and she's asking, do you see any female wave out there, like in genre movies? Who wants to shoot?
I would. I mean, a female wave would be maybe too much, but I think it's very important that all the festivals now are really trying to bring more equality in their programs. So a lot of festivals signed the 50-50 pledge, which means that they try to reach the quota for 50% of female directors in their program, directors, producers, scriptwriters. So I think it's very important to take care about these developments. And with this demand from festivals, from editors, from TV, from even streaming platforms, they really want to have more diversity and more equality, gender equality in their programs. So that means that producers are now really looking for more female directors, and even the funding institutions have quotas for giving money to a team with more female active people in the on board. So it's like a market tool on one hand, but I think which is also there is really a new wave of female directors. For example, in Kosovo, just this year, 3 really strong young first film makers have new films from Kosovo, which is wonderful. I mean, a country you would suppose it's very traditional, but no, I mean, really tough ladies in film business are doing a great job. So I think something is changing, and I think we festival curators have a responsibility to bring more diversity, more equality, more gender equality in our program and take care about it.
I would add that I don't think that there is a female wave. I think there's a female tsunami coming, to be honest, because I'll give you an example. We have an academic section of films made in an academic context, and the last 3 years, over 80% of applications are from women. From female directors. It's ridiculous. It's last year we didn't sign up with this gender equity letter or convention. It's just happening organically. Last year, 68% of our program was female filmmakers. There's more and more women making films, fortunately, more and more women studying films, and finally they're starting to get financed. Obviously, this doesn't mean that we should just let things happen and not really do anything about it. We need to keep paying attention and making sure that this trend continues. But from my perspective, the hardest part is done. Now it's just making sure that these women continue having their opportunities, and this is certainly improving films in many ways. Last year was probably our best program ever, and as I mentioned, with 68% female directors, it certainly was worth it.
That's a lot, but it's I totally understand, because 15 years ago there is only few, even the female filmmaker, apart Agnès Varda and Claire Denis, wonderful filmmakers, it's just very few. But now, since 10 years, if you see just the name of a female filmmakers, immediately it's going to be a little bit better, because they are just starting. it's less gross. It's little bit more interesting for the mind, for the brain, it's something a little bit more. I don't say it's going to stay, but I find the quality of works made by female director, which is good. And I like the numbers of 68 because people say, oh, let's try to have 50-50. No, maybe we can have 60 women and 40 men. It can happen. And yes, there's many. And when we see, when I see a film from a country which are not really representing women, I make an effort to say, okay, let's see what's happening, because I think the representation is also very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have Sergi here asking, what will be surprising for you to see on a Spanish film?
The difficult one.
Okay.
I think Spanish films are also very diverse. I've seen so many different Spanish films. Typical is Spanish genre like Rec or Alex de la Iglesia or this kind of stuff. But there are also experimental films and great documentaries. I see the whole range of approaches in Spanish cinema. So nothing really would actually surprise me, I would say.
Frédéric.
I don't know. I love Spanish cinema, from Chrono Criminals to Fernando Trueba, which is fantastic. By the way, he started in a small section in Carlos and it's a huge success all over the world. The son of Trueba, the Madrid thing, which is very Romerian. So now it's very diverse. There is no more ghost on your film. It's changed a little bit. So the Spanish cinema is very modern. And also there is a Basque, a Catalan. I'm trying to understand. And it's very important for me to try to understand the region and the style. What's happened in Barcelona and in Madrid, which is in a way different, but I think I try to make some research and to think about Albert Serra, which I love, and to think about other filmmakers from Madrid, and trying to find, so it's extremely diverse and very surprising. They are also doing good series, as you know. So yes, I think it's one of the country always proposing something extremely exciting these days.
I agree, and I would. A couple of years ago, we could perhaps say that there's parts of Spain that weren't necessarily really represented in the national cinematography. Galicia was a good example, but the last couple of years, there's been a total explosion of cinema in Galicia. So even that, I agree. Nothing would necessarily surprise me anymore on Spanish cinema, and that's a great thing. That's not a good thing in this case.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to wrap up here. Thank you again to Fernando, Frédéric, Christine. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you today. I hope that you guys enjoy it and that you took something home with you. As I mentioned before, if you take home that film festivals build a community, stimulate audiences, surprise you, and brings you the world to where you are, I think that's worth the effort, and that's destroying a myth that a film festival is something different. Again, thank you to our guests. Thank you to the D'A Film Festival, to Carlos. Best of luck with this edition 2021, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you,
Bye.
David.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.